I'm
Rawr!
angry about pets.
When did we all get this dumb?
Almost only counts in horseshoes, hand grenades, and nuclear warfare. I don't see any bodies, so it doesn't count.
I'm angry about pets.
I'm the chef. I want to hear one thing. Yes, chef.
Come on, man. Use your brain.
The Why I'm Angry podcast starts now.
All right, guys. It is the Why I'm Angry podcast. This is a special edition. Just checking in with you guys. Some major stuff went down last night with the elections. We're going to kind of get an overall, and then we're going to break into what happened in Ohio, which is where I'm at. It just happens to be where I'm at because I did vote on the issues. And honestly, there's some major repercussions, and we'll get to that here shortly. There were some competitive races in a dozen states, and it kind of provided the insights into what the voters were thinking ahead of the 2024 elections, including the further evidence that voters remain motivated by overturning Roe vs. Wade, one side or the other. But it has helped propel the Democrats to victories and even last night in Kentucky and Virginia. And I mean, there were also just a few signs that the economic unease was starting to hurt incumbents. So if you were already in the office, if you're getting blamed for either Bidenomics or your own stupid, terrible decisions in life, which if that's the case, then definitely that's how it should be. You should be judged on those issues. So, um, let's go past the Ohio one. Kentucky, Andy Beshear was defeated Republican Attorney General Daniel Cameron. I saw Chris Christie got on and blamed it on Trump. I'm sure if Biden's falls up the stairs again, Chris Christie is going to blame it on Trump. Mississippi, there was a little bright spot there. Tate Reeves, the Republican, defeated Democrat Brandon Presley. In Virginia, it was kind of Democrats pushing back type deal. Where the Democrats held control of the upper chamber, and then flipped the state house. The fight for control of the Senate had largely been painted as a vote whether the state would further restrict its abortion bans or would restrict its abortion laws. Other than that, you're looking at I had the national news somehow. Antonin Scalia's daughter is losing her school board race in Virginia. I mean, I don't know why that's the national news, but it got on here. So I guess when you're a Supreme Court justice, your daughter's career in politics is up for grabs, even though it was a school board race. So I guess that brings me to what I wanted to get into. So in Ohio, issue 1, there were 2 issues on the ballot for the statewide run. And issue 1 was about reproductive rights, is what they're kind of pushing it as. Issue 2 is about marijuana, legalizing recreational marijuana. I voted against it mainly because I didn't know. I felt like it was a bad deal for Ohio. Just it set up kind of some a kind of a system for the cultivation and stuff like that, and it seemed like it was a restrictive system where only people who had so much money only people who, it doesn't set up a user-friendly system in Ohio. I mean, if we're gonna do it, we might as well at least get it done so that, you know, it's a free market system. I mean, if that's the case, that's the case, whatever. And, if you wanna do that, then whatever. But, that did look like it crossed the 50% threshold. Um, they do make a big deal about the 50% threshold, because we voted down a 60/40 threshold, for amendments to the state, just a few months ago. And honestly, I was one of those people who decided to vote against it because if somehow or if some reason something gets pushed by, it only takes 51% then to vote it back out. Where if you mess it up, and they get, somebody comes in and with a great lie campaign on their ads, then they can vote you, then they get it up to 60%, then you have to, the law basically stated that instead of 44% or 44 um counties, you had to go to all 88 counties. You had to get at 5% of the county on the petition to put up an amendment. It leaned very heavily towards people who have resource, and I am 100% against only allowing people with resources to put things into ballots. So if you were somebody who had a great idea but you have zero money or zero resources, a lot of times those ideas go away and are not ever refund, come back or anything. They just go away and that's it. And so I want to make sure that the best ideas come to light, the best ways to run the government, um, come to it. And so, you know, we just I just want to make sure that when we're talking or when we're working in our state, that the government is mobile. And so when it comes down to um the the different the different ways you can do things, making it harder and harder to change laws is not mobile. It's not easy. It's not making the government light and that. So, um that's just kind of my background behind why I would vote no on a more restrictive, harder to get a law passed. And then to today, where it looks like we're waking up to the fact that issue one, which they call the Reproductive Rights Act or Reproductive Rights Amendment, has passed, and it hasn't passed with the 60% majority, which so we would have been able to stop a reproductive act, um, because honestly, in all 100% honesty, this is a lose for Ohio. I mean, it's not great, and so I wanted to get on and kind of talk about what we did, who's to blame, and how we go on from here. Because it's one thing to say, "Oh, you guys are to blame," blah blah blah, but it's another thing to give the constructive reasons and what to do next. That's where we want to go here for it. So just so everybody kind of knows, here's the ballot issue one ballot language. The proposed amendment it's a self-executing amendment relating to abortion and other reproductive decisions proposed by an initiative petition to enact Section 22 of Article 1 of the Constitution of the State of Ohio. A majority yes vote is necessary for the amendment to pass. So in this, the proposal amendment would establish in the Constitution of the State of Ohio an individual right to one's reproductive medical treatment, including but not limited to abortion. So that's right there. You know, it is not just about abortion, because it says including but not limited. So you know me and setting a precedent. I'm not a big fan of setting a precedent where we can create new laws off of it, because we just, the legal stance on this law is so soft. There's just not like, the wording, the verbiage that they use is just so loose that there's so much more that can be done here that we didn't sign on for. So it can create legal protection for any person or entity that assists a person with receiving reproductive medical treatment, including but not limited to abortion. It will prohibit the state from directly or indirectly burdening, penalizing, or prohibiting abortion before an unborn child is determined to be viable, unless the state demonstrates that it is using the least restrictive means. So, right there, who decides whether your child is viable in the womb? You could get to the end of the pregnancy and they say, well, because you don't have the financial means, or because you blah blah blah, your child's not viable. I mean, I know that seems extreme, but this is what they want. Is they want to be able to you know have the freedom to, anytime they get all up in their feelings about their pregnancy or their decisions. And this is really the biggest thing, is their decisions. They get all up in their feelings and they feel bad about their decisions, and they can wipe it clean without any repercussions. So then number 3 on this is they can grant a pregnant woman's treating physician the authority to determine on a case-by-case basis whether the unborn child is viable. So this isn't you deciding whether the child's viable. This is the doctor, the physician that you choose, now has the authority to determine on a case-by-case basis whether whether that child is viable. Which on the outside looking of this, like on the very basic premise, you can say, well, your physician should be the one that decides whether they're the most educated, they're the most they know what's going on in your body, blah blah blah. They should know. But I thought this was for the rights of the woman to decide. It was her body and her choice, right? So now you've given the right to the woman's treating physician the authority to determine. It's not even your right anymore. Still. And this is now an amendment to the state of Ohio. So this is it's not your right. It is not your right to decide whether your child is viable or not. And honestly, you don't have that decision. So going on, we'll come back to those things. Only allow the state to prohibit abortion after an unborn child is determined by a pregnant woman's treating physician to be viable, and only if the physician does not consider the abortion necessary to protect the pregnant woman's life or health. So the s- the state itself can still come in and set up a prohibitive a pro- prohibitive law on abortion as long as it's not against your health. Which, if you looked back at the law that Ohio was going to enact, or that they stopped, they put an injunction on and stopped, it allowed no abortions after 6 weeks, unless in the case of a rape, incest, or a that the health of the mother was in jeopardy. So it allowed for those things, and and they kept on the. I'm gonna get to this. Okay, so last one. Always allow an unborn child to be aborted at any stage of pregnancy, regardless of viability, if the treating physician determination, de- his determination, the abortion is necessary to protect the woman's life or health. So the they want to be able to abort the child all the way up to, ready to come out of your womb, if it's going to cause harm to the woman, or it could affect her life, which I understand is a big thing. I understand is, it's the decision of life or death for yourself. And that's just it. It's the decision of life or death for yourself. And I guess in that situation, you should be able to decide whether you live, um but on the health side of things, how menial do we get on whether that, if you decide that it's going to, you're going to bleed for a few weeks too long, and that's just not, doesn't fit in your health plan. Does that now, is that part of a determination in, you know, in your health? It's not your life anymore. Now it's just, you could be injured. Or you could have a hernia, or you could, whatever else. If that doesn't fit into you know, your plan for the future, I've got a vacation in 6 weeks. I've got, other things to do. I just, this just doesn't fit. Then, maybe I just abort this child. I know that seems like insensitive and just menializes it, but I mean, at this point, over 95% of abortions are because, one, financially, you're not ready. Two, it's not the right time of your life. Three, it's somehow, any of them, it's somehow inconvenient for your life. Over 95% of abortions are based on the convenience factor. I'm not saying that, having a child isn't a major thing. Isn't I'm not saying that having a child can't ruin your life in terms of jobs, in terms of, you know, your education, so making it overly hard for you to get an education. I'm not saying that it's not one of those things that is going to change your life completely, because it is. I mean, I'm 41. We just had our first child. Um, Literally like a month or two before I turned 40. She is amazing, but she has literally changed our lives. I used to have a full-time, job that encompassed most of my life, and where at any given time I either was training um adult learning, or I was doing, traveling around the country with Comic-Cons, doing sales and stuff like that for authentication companies, or I've been in antiques and things of that nature, or I've been running a food business for pretty much all my life, and all of those businesses take or encompass 80 to 90% of your life, because it takes a lot to run a business like that. And so now that she's around, we made the decision that because I was in transition in between the businesses, that we would push in on this podcast because I could do it from home. And as she gets older and things like that, I can schedule the things here or there. And if we can get this build up, then, you know, then we can take care of her in a better way, from here. And so we went down to one income, and we get we don't get anything from the podcast or the website or anything, which, is fine. If you do love us, support us, get on our website and show us some support, because like I said, we don't make anything off of this until it becomes a bigger, more viable podcast. But anyhow, that's not what we're talking about. But we did make some sacrifices, and even at an older age, we have made these sacrifices. So it's going to change your life. I'm not saying that, you know, it's not a serious question to ask, or it's not a serious idea, that having a child. But at the same time, if you are out having sex without thinking about having a child, then you're an uneducated idiot. I have nothing nicer to say about that. If you were raped, or you were molested or whatever by family, or you have a health issue that you didn't know about before you had a child, or even if you thought, I'm going to try this, and you have to have an abortion, I understand. I mean, on the rape side of things, you know, because of my Christian background, because of my Christian faith, I do believe that God gives you he can give you blessings out of terrible situations. And maybe that child is your blessing. But, that is a conversation for another time, I guess. But anyhow, so if you voted yes, that is what you voted. That is part of what you voted for. There is some more wording to it and stuff. But the main issue, the main thing is that if you voted yes, you also um erased it ends parental notification, and prevents parents from being involved in their child's medical decisions, like if your child had an abortion, or an irreversible sex change operation. So, it also it cuts parents out of important decisions in their children's lives while allowing abortion promoters to pressure those children behind closed doors. So it kind of takes you out of the room. So and not that it's like you're getting bullied like if you were in a union or something, or if you were trying to stand against a union or something like that. But it's more of like there are doctors out there that run with the money. And so those doctors, although they're not hurting anyone, they're also not 100% helping you because they're not giving you all the information on the medications that they're getting a paycheck from to promote. So, um, you know what though? What a no vote does? If you don't understand a law, if you don't know what it's going to do for you or for the state or for the people in around you, you know what a no vote does? Nothing. It changes nothing. So this is where I, where we get to the, you know, in the state of Ohio today, we wake up and realize they lied. And they did a great job. People from all over the country, the George Soroses and all of that, did a great job of setting up Ohio. So they got on and they had the commercials and they said, this is for families. This is an extreme. If you need to vote yes on issue 1 because it saves families. Well, how does abortion and protecting abortion save the family? Well, you and your doctor have the best ability to decide, and this allows you to decide whether you get an abortion or not, or whether your child's viable or not, and it protects your right to get an abortion and gets the government out of being able to decide for you. Well, the government wasn't deciding. It was telling you that unless there was a major issue or unless there was something detracting from it, that once the baby is viable, once the eggs are fertilized and it becomes, arms and legs and a chest and not, they want to tell you that all of those arms and legs and hearts and heartbeats, oh, that's just pregnancy tissue. Because if we eat a piece of beef, it sounds way better than we ate a piece of cow. If we killed, you know, a soldier that was ready to kill us, it's way better than I killed little Susie down the street. When we get to know what we're killing, we get to know what we're killing. And we may realize that what we're killing might not be as bad as what we think, might not be as inconvenient as we drew up in our head. And so when they came in and they had their commercials, and their commercials said, if you vote no, you're killing women. They got this. If you're watching and all of that were different. And I had to escape to get an abortion to save my life. One, Roe v. Wade was early 70s. So if you, I mean, the lady looked like, I mean, I'm not going to say she wasn't young looking for her age, but she looked like she had to been at least 65, but not 70 or 80. And I'm not, not 100% debunking this, but I'm going to say, I called BS to my wife. I said, that lady's not old enough for one. She would have had to been, I mean, for you to remember or be in the age, be around the age to have kids back in the 70s, you'd have to be 85 or 90. I mean, it's 70s now are 50 some years away ago. So if you were 13, there you go. 50 years, 63 years old. So to, where the state was that had a ban on abortion and you escaped, or did you escape to Mexico? I'm going to say that suburban housewife lady didn't escape to Mexico to get an abortion. Now, 100% don't know, don't have the dog in that fight. Maybe I sound insensitive. Oh well, I guess. But they came on and they said that, the government's trying to decide for you and you and your doctor can decide. Nowhere in this did it say you get to decide. It said that your physician decides whether it's viable or not. They lied to you. Now, they didn't lie to you in the fact that they said you, with your physician, because you can't get away from that, will get to decide. But all in all, at the end of it, it's your physician. I'm not sure why that word's so tough today. That's going to decide. 2, if you're upset about this vote today and you don't know, or you didn't know, or you didn't vote, or you voted yes and didn't realize what it meant, it's on you. If you didn't vote, it's on you. If you didn't vote on this issue because you didn't have enough education, it's on you. Because education, we've been talking about this. Education is the key. Like, if you looked at ads and you got confused, it's your fault. You didn't go to the actual issue and the verbiage of the issue and look at it. That's your fault. So, if you go to the full text, which I kind of read the quick text, and you might say, well, Aaron, it didn't say any of that extra stuff in the quick text. In the quick text, it says on Article 122, Section 22A, it says every individual has the right to make and carry out one's own reproductive decisions, including but not limited to the decision on contraception, fertility treatments, continuing one's own pregnancy, miscarriage, care, and abortion. B, the state shall not directly or indirectly burden, or penalize, or prohibit. And then it has subsection 1, and individuals' voluntary exercise or an individual's voluntary exercise of this right, or a person or entity that assists an individual exercising this right, unless the state demonstrates that it is using the least restrictive means to advance the individual's health in accordance with widely accepted and evidence-based standards of care. I mean, who decides that? These doctors that that are willing to cut your genitals up so that you can, because you got in your feelings about masculinity or about femininity, that are wanting letting you change yourself. And then C, as used in this section, fetal viability means the point in a pregnancy when, in the professional's judgment of the pregnant patient's treating physician, the fetus has a significant likelihood of survival outside of the uterus. So viability isn't until the actual baby could live on its own. So it's not heartbeat. It's not, your heart, although it's the last say on whether you're alive, it is definitely not going to be the first say on whether you're alive or not. Think about it. So, I mean, then there's like 6 pages on issue 2, which is about marijuana use, and that there's 5 articles and a couple sub spots on the whether we're going to kill babies or when they're viable or when when all of that can go down. But the marijuana, we're going to make sure we get our money cut and all of that. And what's real great about issue 2, it was I thought there was a couple funny things on issue 2, and this is why I said I didn't feel like it was the best deal. Whether you're going to vote yes and legalize marijuana, or you feel like legalizing marijuana is cool or fine or whatever. I went down. I just didn't feel like it was a great deal for Ohio. So it's going to provide for the creation of 5 funds in the state treasury: the Adult Use Tax Fund, the Cannabis Social Equity and Jobs Fund, the Host Community Cannabis Fund, and the Substance Abuse Addiction Fund. Oh, I guess one of them was all together. And the Division of Cannabis Control and Tax Commissioner Fund. So then they're going to tax you on your cannabis or marijuana 10% on top of any other taxes, usual sales taxes in the state or in your local jurisdiction. And that 10% is going to go to 36% is going to go to the Cannabis Social Equity and Jobs Fund, which I don't know what that does for anybody. They're gonna, if you get fired for, smoking pot, they're gonna help you out, or whatever. Gonna go to a bureaucracy where people are going to be part of a nonprofit so that they can make some money and lobby on the behalf of the marijuana industry. 36% of it's going to the Host Community Cannabis Facilities Fund. So what is the Host Community Cannabis Facility? Like, is that so that you can then advertise for marijuana? I mean, we're creating this cannabis community now, or whatever. So 25% of the fund will then go to the Substance Abuse and Addiction Fund. So we're not even giving the majority to, help people who do get caught up in recreational marijuana and are addicted. and need the help. And then 3% goes to the Division of Cannabis Control and Taxation Commission Fund. So there's one other fund that was created, but it is not getting any money from the taxes. So where is that one going to get, where is the adult use tax fund, getting its money? Where is that getting its money? Yep. So you're going to fund that pretty easy and pretty quickly. So anyhow, if you didn't educate yourself and we went through this now, learn your lesson. There are a lot of different areas where you can, go to read about the different state issues, or the different federal issues as we go into the presidential election next year. There are plenty of places to read about each of the different candidates, each of the different issues that you're going to end up getting into. You can always go to the Ohio, your state attorney general's office and read the actual ballot issue right there. And just make sure that we're becoming an educated electorate. I think as we've moved beyond the farms and the everyday life, we used to have a group of outside conservatives that you say, okay, the cities were not as conservative, they were more progressive, they were more left leaning, they were more social, more social liabilities. They wanted the programs, they wanted the help, and the farther you got out of the cities, they were more conservative. They could stand on their own 2 feet. A lot of them, being farmers and that, they grew their own food. They relied on no one but themselves. And so they didn't want their government to be giving them anything, because if you run your own business, if you control your own destiny by running your own business, then you realize that nothing is given for free. You are required something. In the end, you are required something. And so if you get if they're giving you the Obama phones, what do you think you're required? You're required at least a vote, to your Democrat or to your, Obama that gave you the phone. And obviously, if your group or whatever does not vote for, those people, then, they'll either be out and you won't get you won't get more phones, or you won't get more, handouts, or, you know, they'll figure out something or someone else that will keep them in office. And so I think we don't realize that it's, it's, for one, they require something. For two, it's not free, because we're now starting to pay more and more in our taxes, in our, to the government, so that it can do all of these things. You know, I think they said the last time the first 3 months of the year you're paying your taxes. Like, your salary the first 3 months of the year go to taxes because you almost pay 28% or so is kind of the average going rate right now for your taxes, and those taxes go to all of these different subsidies to help out everybody, and they go to all of these different insurances and Medicare and Medicaid and you know, all of if you look at your check, you'll see a line item list of, you paid Social Security, you paid, you know, unemployment, you paid all kinds of different insurances. And that's what they are. They're insurances. If you look at the insurance companies, the 3 or 5 or 6 that are left, they're killing it. They're making tons of money because not only are you paying them tons of money, the government is paying them tons of money to subsidize them being still around and carrying the government mandated amount of coverage, and they're providing you terrible service, and they don't care because your money's coming to them. Your money's also coming to them from the government. And, in the end, they're going to decide whether you live or die because they decide what kind of service or what kind of treatments you can get, because some of these are experimental treatments that and the liability doesn't fall on them. Even if they decide something dumb and you end up dying because they decided this experimental treatment was okay or this experimental treatment wasn't good for you and it could have saved your life, doesn't matter to them. Kind of like we talked about the other day with the UN. The farther you go up the chain, the more you're just dollar signs, or just that the dollar signs are coming out of you. So in the end, most likely, and just to put a silver lining into it, 75 to 85% of the people who listen to this will never encounter any issue with the abortion laws. They won't have to deal with it. It's such a small amount. Like, yes, it is a ton of babies that they kill every year. Millions and millions. But it's such a small amount of people who are actually who you will actually run into that has had an issue with the abortion laws, or that will have an issue with it because they were raped, or because they had terrible parents, an incestual relationship, and had a child. Those are the vast minority. I mean, we did a whole podcast on, or we did a podcast at least on the beginning of it, and it was less than 1% that actually dealt with those things. And it was less than 1% that deals with the issue of it's either the mother or the child. It's less than 1% that deal with the health issue of having a baby. We have good medical in this country, and so most of the time it's fairly viable. But viability now is only if the child can survive out of the womb. So most preemies, who knows? It's not a majority. It's not It's not an almost guarantee, and that's what they want to provide viability. So they can say that viability is 8 months and 2 weeks if they want. 41 weeks, 40 weeks, 39 weeks. They can say that that's it. If it couldn't survive without health issues or medical issues out of the womb for unless it's up to 37 weeks. Maybe that's even too late. So you can abort it anytime. I mean, we want to talk about it being your body, your choice, but you're not making a choice on your body. You're making a choice on the baby's body. That you made the choice to make. And I say that as lovingly and as just understandingly as possible. But in the end, I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt. 95% have made the choice, sober or not, but ahead of time made the choice. This is what's going to happen. And if it's not the right time for you, then there are plenty of ways to stop that without having a fertilized egg turn into arms, legs, and a heart. There's a head involved also. But when that thing is beating, it's real. And I can say that from a point of knowledge because I lost one. It was beating. We heard it beat. And I honestly, I don't know how you hear the heartbeat. I mean, it becomes real. And I can say, okay, it became real and you became overwhelmed. But again, we talk about this all the time. We cannot live our life getting all up in our feelings, making decisions based on all up in our feelings. Because feelings aren't facts. Feelings change. Just wait another minute or two and your feelings will be different. But the facts are the facts that, when you have a baby, it is a life. It is a soul. It is a person. And, wherever you decide that that's a baby or not, honestly, I don't know that that's up to you. Because the facts are, if we use the heart to decide whether you're dead or alive, then we should use the heart to decide whether you're dead or alive. And there are people that we've kept alive on machines and stuff like that, pumping through their heart. And we've even talked about 2 people who have gotten pig hearts. But when their heart was dead, when they turned off the machines and their heart stopped beating, they were dead. So today, kind of a sad day, kind of one of those days where you think you might remember this day as a referendum against or for your cause. What's good about this is that as easily as it was put on the books is as easily as it can be taken off the books. we me and my wife even looked at it and saw all of the big, all of the ads, and we're just like, they spent millions, probably hundreds of millions of dollars on it. And it's where we're at. It's where we're at in this country. Money is, if you've got it, then you spend it, you use it as power. And as sad as that, we wanted to say, oh, power's power, not money is power. No, money is power. And your elected officials, that's why you don't have any kind of term limits. They're sitting there getting money, they're getting paid, they're getting whatever, they're taking care of them. They're not taking care of you anymore. Once they get elected, they may do a little bit of work but the laws in the country are sound, have been for years. And they're just sitting there grabbing all of the dollars that you give them. I mean, do we really need to decide they already have the laws to build infrastructure, to decide, the only thing they should be deciding is whether we're regulating these new technologies, AI. That's about it. Any military grade new technologies, drones, things of that nature. Other than that, the government's laws already cover those things. Do we need insurance from them? Not if we pay for our own insurance. If it's your responsibility, then you pay for it. If it's their responsibility, then obviously you don't pay for it, other than you pay for it out of your taxes. So do you want to decide to pay for it, or you want to get or do you want to have to pay for it? Because the government doesn't care how expensive it is. Not to you. They only care how expensive it is to us or to them. So if it gets expensive to them, you think they're not going to cut your deductible up so that, mess it up so that you have to pay a higher I mean, look at what deductibles have gone to. You used to be able to get a couple $100 deductible for a year of health insurance. Now, you'd be lucky if you got $1,000 or $5,000 worth of deductible before your health insurance goes up, or before you have to start paying, or before they pay on your health insurance. I mean, you think about that. That's thousands of percent of raise in your costs. I mean, look at what your grocery bill has gone to. I'm not sitting here, dogging the government, but at the same time, we shouldn't want the government to make all of these decisions for us. Except for the fact that the government educated us to be dumb enough to think that the government's going to make the best decision for us, or that we don't want to make any decisions because adulting is hard. Yeah, I mean, frick. Do we want to go out and make decisions? Do we want to do we want to make make money? No, we don't. I don't want to go to a job that I have to manually work. I would rather just, talk to you guys all day. But that's not life. That's, but we didn't teach we haven't taught our kids that. We didn't we haven't been part of our kids' lives. We've allowed the education system to take over. We've allowed, these super educated teachers that we put in place that we don't get to vote on, that some government person says, here's what salary we can pay you, and the person who is best qualified that it will take that salary comes in, and we don't vet through that very much, other than, okay, they got a clean background, They haven't killed nobody. No felonies on their record. Go ahead and teach. And we still don't even have a full system set up that, you know, to we're pulling more and more of the parental rights away for what they teach. There's no way to, in Virginia they just passed the law about or they were saying that the library referendum was one of the things that was on the ballot that um conservative and Democratic voters were fighting against, is that whether it would continue to allow you to, the school system to give you books, and whether you were allowed to control what your kids read. They were saying one of the representatives that was getting elected, he took a beating because he said that he felt like that school assigned book reading, that that parents should be able to reject certain questionable readings, which 100% understand. At the same time, I feel like if it's not a subject or an issue of, if it's not an issue of obscene, then and it's an issue of more like democratic or opposite views, then we need to read opposite views. We need to be able to look at views and things that are not the same as ours. And what's been real nice lately in our podcast is we've been able to have conversations with opposite views, or with differing views, I guess not opposite, but differing views. And we've been able to have that with a minor amount of real vitriol and of just disagreeableness. We've been able to have that with an educational level. I feel like that you don't get anymore. We're not teaching critical thinking. We're not teaching how to deal with people who differ from you. We don't teach about that. We just, our schools have been teaching that you yell and you cry and you fight those people tooth and nail if they just believe something a little different than you. If they don't 100% take what you say as the facts without thinking, without questioning, then you cry and you fight, and you take a hatchet to them if they come to your door, or you throw their papers and any of their educational facts and things like that on the floor. You throw their tables around, punch them in the face. It's okay, it's cool. Assault is legal if they don't agree with you, if that triggers you and gets you in your feelings. So, well, I think I've done enough here on the Why I'm Angry podcast. I just want you to realize that if you're feeling the same way I am today, a little off, a little betrayed, a little lied to, a little just not figuring, like, just shaking your head about how things could have gone this way, because no amount of legislation before this could have, stopped this. Really, this is not a this is a referendum on where things are going. If you don't like where things are going, get out there, educate, tell people, have the conversations that are not comfortable, and just fight the good fight. And if we lose in the end, it's all right. We win. As Christians, we win. We'll go to heaven, see our Lord, Savior, all that good stuff. So, this is just temporary, and we'll fight while we can. So, this is the Why I'm Angry podcast. Remember to get on our page. Right now, we're doing a 50% off deal on any of the subscriptions that we're running. With the bomb or 50 bomb promo code. So get on there and type in the 50 bomb promo code and get yourself that 50% off. Go to the whyimangry.com and go over to our subscriptions, and you'll get to see all of the articles that we're chomping on right now. You'll get to you can kind of look at the podcast and run the articles while you listen to the podcast. You can look at them, read them, do all the fact checking, educational. Make sure that we're on the right page. Even if we're not, get on our contacts and send us why you're angry at us, or if we missed a great article, send us that too. You can go straight to the Why I'm Angry podcast at gmail.com for any of that, or you can hit our contacts on our webpage at whyimangry.com. So, as always, remember to follow, like, and share the Why I'm Angry podcast across all social media platforms and anywhere you get your podcast. The Why I'm Angry podcast ends now.